I went online and did some research and learned that 5.8% of people can solve a Rubik's Cube. Seeing as though this video is out and the title exists, you can probably deduct that I am in fact a part of that 5.8%, which means that I am 1 in 17 people. Anyways, enough with the math. I went to my first ever Rubik's Cube competition recently, or as us fancy cubers call it, a cubing comp, and it was insane. I went to the state championships cubing competition of where I live. For all of you non-cubers, or 94.2% of you, there is unfortunately some vocabulary that you need to know, so get out a piece of paper and listen up. I competed in 7 different events. 2x2, 3x3, 4x4, 5x5, Scube, Pyraminx, and Clock. You might be thinking, what? What is all of this tomfoolery? But don't worry, I'll explain it. This is the 2x2. It has 2 squares here and here. That's why it's called the 2x2. This is the 3x3. It has 3 squares here and here. Okay, I think you got it. As I said before, I did the 4x4 and the 5x5, which are also pretty self-explanatory. You just count the squares. But I also did more! I did the Pyraminx, which is called that because pyramid. I did the Scube. No idea why it's called that. It's uncomfortable. And I also did the Clock. Basically, it looks like this on both sides, and the goal of the puzzle is to have all the dials pointing up towards the red. Alright, now that the cubes are out of the way, let's move on to some more vocabulary. There is things called a cutoff time and a time limit. The time limit is the time limit, and the cutoff time is basically the time that allows you to do 5 solves. You usually get 5 solves per round unless there's a cutoff time. You have 2 solves to make the cutoff time, and if you don't make it, then you don't get the other 3 solves. Events do not always have a cutoff time. Next, we have a PB and a PR. A PB is a personal best of all time, and a PR is a personal record, which means your best time in a competition. This right here is called a stack mat timer. It's meant for cup stacking, but nobody cares about that. Basically, to start it, you have to put your hands on these things right here, wait until a green light appears, and then take your hands off. When you are done solving, you slam your hands back here, and then it stops. There's a whole bunch of rules on exactly how to use it, but I don't really feel like listing those off because there's a lot of them. You also have a judge who writes your times on a piece of paper and watches over your inspection time. Before every solve, you get 15 seconds of inspection time. Next, we have a +2. A +2 or +2 seconds is when you get certain penalties during the solves that add 2 seconds to your time. And lastly, we have a DNF, which is when you stop the timer and your cube isn't solved. It stands for did not finish, and I would totally never do that. I should probably have taken notes about the competition when I was there, but unfortunately I lacked the necessary brain cells to think of a good idea beforehand, so I'm gonna go off of my memory here. Day 1 started off when I woke up. What a surprise. I got my cubes, camera, and suitcase and threw it into the car, and then started making my way downtown to the cubing competition. When we got there, I opened the car doors and immediately saw a load of other people with cubes who were going inside. We went to the front office of the building where the competition was held and did registration. I got a pretty cool name tag with my events, my name, duh, and what group I was in for the events. The groups are basically when you do your solves. I was actually in group 1 for all the events, so I guess I'm just better than everybody. But what's so fascinating to me was how many other cubing nerds were there and how much I just fit in with them. Honestly, it was beautiful. When it was eventually time for me to go, I made my way to the warm-up area thingy. It's basically a curtain that everybody who's waiting to solve sits behind until they get called up. I started with 2x2, and for my first solve, I said, "Oh golly gee, I hope I do a good solve for my first ever competition solve in my life!" And then I got a 14 seconds. I swear I'm normally better than that! I got a few other decent solves, and then I got my personal record 2x2 solve, which was a 4.075. What? That is a pretty good time for me at home, let alone at a competition, so I'm happy with that. Here are some of the other solves I did as well. When 2x2 was done, I had a little break to walk around and explore, but that's boring. and I got no footage. So let's move on to pyramids. Woo! My GoPro kind of stopped working for 2 of the pyramid solves, but that's fine. I got these 3 on camera. $9.999.
Oh,
I got 4 9s.
Noah, 3.
Dang it. I fumbled it. It's fine.
Aiden.
Oh, I don't know. I guess this is my first.
It was honestly nothing super special, but that's okay. Because next up was 3x3. Dang, I'm absolutely rocking these transitions. 3x3 is the main event for most competitions because it's the most popular puzzle in the world, and also it's pretty cool and stuff. I did really good for 3x3 actually. Well, for myself at least. I'm not Max Spark. My goal for 3x3 was get an average less than 30 seconds, and at least one time under 25 seconds. And literally all my solves were under 30 seconds. I also got a 22 and a 23, which is really good for me because my personal best is 20.
Yes.
Next up was Cube. It's kind of weird and uncomfortable. Just everything about it makes me uncomfortable. The camera also cut out during Scube, so don't worry about it. I did break a personal best during Scube, but I didn't really have a reaction, so you didn't really miss out on much. To make up for it, I'll put the world record Scube solve here. Anyways, that's all I got for part 1. Make sure to check for part 2 though. That will be out whenever it's out. It's gonna be absolutely crazy. Bye!
Atticus block. 12. Yep.